One of the never-ending debates in the artistic community, particularly with youth culture, is of course the eternal quandary: are video games art? Today, Mitten will take you on a tour of the Game Masters exhibit here in Melbourne during the Winter Showcase exhibit. We're going to be showing you some of the fantastic quality exhibits that are available through Hideo Kojima, of course Shigeru Miyamoto. We get to interview, of course, the fantastic Rob Murray of Firemint Studios, who's a really big up-and-comer in the Australian developing scene. And of course we'll take you on a tour of everything that makes video games art. Arcade machines had very humble beginnings, starting of course with Pac-Man. This is the game that probably ensured that it's a commercial success for video games for the future. Over $3 million has been pumped into these things in quarter form, and of course it's had #1 hits with songs, TV shows, everything. Pac-Man, at the time, it did have some questionable artistic quality, but I personally am a really big fan of the character development that they had with, of course, Blinky, Binky, Inky, and Clyde. The artistry that goes into the concept and design of video games is without question. Featured here you'll see the art of Ashley Wood, a local homegrown talent from Perth. Fantastic designer, works with a lot of ink, and his concept art is what has brought so much success to not only the covers but also the shells and the homes that Metal Gear Solid has been brought into. Fantasy games have an epic scale to them, of course, and that might be what makes them so very popular. World of Warcraft, of course, is the massive multiplayer online game. The scale that has to go into designing this whole living world that constantly evolves and grows and has people affecting themselves, real-life characters, has an epic scale to storycraft, design, sound, visuals that is not seen in any sort of medium other than this. We're sitting here with Rob Murray of Firemint. Now, what do you think is the relationship between mobile gaming and the future of video games?
I've always seen mobile gaming as the future of video games, and when I say that, I mean it's like the Walkman or the iPod of music. Video games are video games, whether they're on mobile or they're on a big device, etc. And a lot of the skills are similar, but I believe that they're the ultimate platform is the one that you can take anywhere. The only thing sort of standing in the way of mobile, say, when we talk about the larger, more immersive games, is some sort of immersion barrier, I would call it. Yeah. So maybe it's virtual goggles that solve that one day when they do them properly.
How do you feel about the whole video games are art sort of debate? Where do you sit on that line?
Yeah, I think they are art, so there's no question. The way I look at games too, because games encompass, I think, a large, very broad swathe of human experience. Some people are very focused on the story and setting and that, which is fantastic, not my skills at all. I would say, you know, I think about sport, music, spaces, like architecture. I think a game is built for a consumer, but so is a great space, right? So if architecture is art, I think gaming is art, and I think the engineering portion of it, combined with the creative portion, is art as well.
What do you feel about the situation with game design in Australia? Firemint's obviously fantastically, but a lot of other studios are shutting down. What do you hope for, again, video game designers and artists in the future?
I really think we're in a wonderful time in Australia right now, even though, you know, it might be a bit hard commercially for people and it's hard to get good work and stuff. Really, now we've got an opportunity to breed designers from independent development, where their first experience is actually tackling the holistic problem of making a game and getting it to market. The people that are going to come out of that are going to be fantastic. So I think we're in the stages of a new education, a proper education.
In games, it's kind of like a garden bed for video game developers. This is where all the up-and-comers come from, and they get to play with some pretty cool stuff. We do have Breed here, of course, designed and created by Jonathan Blow. He plays with physics and time in such a way as not only to bend your mind, but also play with the mechanics of video games themselves. And then, of course, we have bits like Flower just behind me, where there's no real defined goal, but it is such an enjoyable experience, you wouldn't question it for a moment. We are sitting here with McRae, who is curator for the Game Masters exhibit here in Melbourne. Can you give me an idea before and after you started this curating this exhibit, what your sort of stance is on that debate of whether video games are art?
I don't know that I ever really thought about it in that way, actually, because I think that for us, especially Acme, it was always something that we were going to do, like that we consider part of the cultural territory that we operate in, and because we do all screen-based media, you know, we have exhibitions on film, we have art exhibitions, we have TV-related exhibitions, so video games is just a natural one for us to do. So
Are there any particular pieces in here that you're a big fan of? I mean, you've got together so many different items. Is there one you're really fond of?
I'm a big fan of Tim Shaker's games, and we've got a lot of his artwork in the show as well, which is pretty cool. And those very early adventure games, like Monkey Island, Fandango, they're still really fun to play. And they've just done a re-release of Monkey Island, so you can actually play them in the latest PC. And then I think probably more recent games, some of that game company's games, Journey I think is a really beautiful game to play, just as a complete contrast, and the way that you play it and the way that you move through it is much more intuitive, even when you're there are sort of puzzles that you need to solve, but the way that you solve them is so different from the brain power that you use in other games.